All right, here we go. Brand new Flyers Daily for the 14th of November, 2025. Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Flyers got a doubleheader this weekend, back-to-back tonight and tomorrow, both on the road, both in the Central Time Zone. Tonight, they'll be in St. Louis to take on Braden Shen and the St. Louis Blues. And tomorrow, they will be in Dallas to take on the Stars, Mikko Rantanen, Jake Ottinger, and the Dallas Stars. Saturday night hockey. Both games, an hour later than we're used to, at least at this point of the season, 8 p.m. starts in St. Louis and Dallas this weekend. We're going to tee up both games in just a minute. Here's what's coming up on the podcast today. We have got some updates that I said I was going to dig in for you guys and get some answers on a couple of different things. We're going to talk about the Flyers D-zone and the O-zone in separate capacities. We're going to get to a question I asked in yesterday's episode about reading comments on the show. Guess how? By reading comments. And we're also going to have some fun as well. So here we go. Let's tee up the first game of this two-game little road trip before the Flyers return home next Thursday, when they'll also take on the St. Louis Blues for Hockey Fights Cancer game. If you can get down to that game, I highly advise it. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, Blues and Flyers tonight. Where are the Blues right now? Well, the Blues not doing so hot. It has been a very rough start. A lot of rumors out there from guys that you tend to trust with information, the insiders, that St. Louis is open for business. They are 17 games in, 6-8-3, 15 points, sitting in the 7th spot of the Central Division of the Western Conference. And the only reason they're not 8th is because there's only one team behind them, and that is the Nashville Predators, who have 14 points. They are minus 18 in goal differential already, 3-5-2 in their last 10. They did win their last game, however. And who was that against? That was against, the Calgary Flames. Flyers lost to Calgary, but Calgary not having a good start either. Recently, they lost to Seattle in overtime. They beat the Buffalo Sabres, and they lost to Washington 6-1. They had a really rough 7-game skid from October 21st to November 1st. And that likely put them in this position where general managers consider him busting it up as he's in his final year before he hands over the GM duties to Thomas Steen. Pius Suter leading the way with 10 points in 17 games. It's hard to believe they've played 17 games and their leading point guy only has 10 points. He's got 5 and 5, 1 on the power play, 1 assist on the power play. A D-man is second in scoring. Justin Falk, actually he's tied with a couple of guys, Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, a name that's been out there. Kyrou's brother, actually in the Flyers organization now. Goaltending. That's been a problem too. Now, it's not just goaltending. The environment's been horrible for St. Louis. 12 games this season for Jordan Binnington. And he's got a record of 4-5-2, a 3.21 GAA, and an 873 save percentage. Normally, I would look at that 873 and go, ooh, that's horrific. But when the save percentage around the league's like 892 average right now, it's not good. It's below average, but it's not as horrific as maybe you would have said a couple of years ago. So the Flyers will get St. Louis coming up tonight. What is Braden Shen up to? The captain. His name's been out there a little bit as well. His start, 17 games, just 2 goals and 4 assists for Braden Shen, playing 16 minutes and 50 seconds of ice. I mean, he's a minus 12 also. Wow, things really going sideways there in St. Louis at the moment. So Flyers need to capitalize on that. Go on the road, get the 2 points over a team that's not off to a good start, and then go on to Dallas. It's going to be a tough stretch. 3 games in 4 days, 2 games in a different time zone with travel. You know, the trip from St. Louis to Dallas is not chump change. And to play those 2 games Friday and Saturday, it's a tough trip, especially when the last game of the trip, the third of 3 and 4, lands you right in Dallas to take on a really good Stars team. Now, this team is legit. They're in second place in the Central Division of the Western Conference. They've played 17 games. They have a record of 10-4-3, 23 points, 4 points back of the Colorado Avalanche. Oddly enough, though, they are -1 in goal differential. Colorado, who's 4 points up on them, is plus 25. Dallas is -1. Teams below them in the standings: Winnipeg, plus 10. Utah, plus 4. Chicago, plus 11. Odd that Dallas is -1. 7-1-2 in their last 10. They have won 3 straight games. And Dallas, Solid start for them after a very disappointing end of the playoffs last year. The teams they beat in the 3 games, Nashville on the road, Seattle at home, Ottawa on the road in overtime. They have Montreal last night, or when I'm recording this, the game's not over, but it's the Flyers and the Dallas Stars come Saturday, just a 2-game road trip before Dallas returns home to take on the Flyers on Saturday. Who's getting it done for the Dallas Stars? Well, we know one guy that's getting it done, and it's not a shock. It's Mikko Rantanen leading the way with points, where we said when we were talking about St. Louis, their leading scorer has 10 points, 5 goals, 5 assists. Mikko Rantanen in 17 games, how about 9 goals, 14 assists, 23 points. 13 points, leading the NHL on the power play. He's off to a great start. He's playing 21 and 39 of ice time. Wyatt Johnson's up there as well. He's got 20 points now in 17 games. Jason Robertson's got 17. Heiskanen's got 16. Hence, they got a good team. This is a very good team. You look at net, what they got there. Jake Ottinger, his numbers so far this season, maybe right about average, 2.89 goals against average and an .896 save percentage, a record of 7-3-2. But he is one of the top goaltenders in this league. Casey dismissed their backup. I don't expect we'll see him. But we'll see how the Flyers deploy their goaltenders this weekend. Coming up tonight, I think Sam Ersson gets the game with the 3 and 4 and the back-to-back on tap. I think Ersson gets the game tonight in St. Louis, and then Vladar gets the duty of dealing with the Dallas Stars on Saturday. That's my gut feeling on the situation. So we'll see if that is the case. You're not going to play Vladar all 3 of the 4. Ersson's going to get in there. We'll see if he can deliver a good performance, with Vladar coming off a really good performance Wednesday night in that 2-1 loss in overtime for the Philadelphia Flyers. So the power play for Dallas, number 2 in the league, 32.8%. Flyers just faced the 3rd-ranked power play in Edmonton, held them off the board. They only held McDavid and Draisaitl to 1 total shot. McDavid had an assist. They did a great job on McDavid and Draisaitl in that game. Dallas, you're gonna have to deal with some big-time players once again, and you got to stay out of the box. So Dallas 32.82 in the NHL, only behind the Penguins. Their PK is at 73.6. Not that great. That's good for the Flyers power play, who, again, had a goal in the last game. That's the 26th ranked penalty kill in the NHL, where the Flyers have the 3rd ranked penalty kill in the NHL at 88.7%. And the Flyers power play right now, we're going to talk more about this in a second, 14th in the league, 20.4%. I came across some what ifs that I wrote in September and talked about. We're going to get to that in a minute. But the Flyers, they got to generate more offense. That's for sure. So let's get to the what ifs real quick. The what ifs, I found this email when I was cleaning out one of my emails, and I sent this to myself back on the 9th of September. And the email basically says, what ifs for the 2025-26 Flyers season. So when I look at it, I go, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Even before training camp, I would suspect, right? That's before training camp. These are the things that I had in the what ifs. What if goaltending became a strength? Well, goaltending has become a strength. Dan Vladar's been excellent. Ersson had some good showings in the beginning before he got hurt. Overall, the goaltending is much improved for the Flyers. And when you look at goals allowed per games played, the Flyers are doing very well in this category, comparatively speaking, especially to last year where they were giving up a ton. 3.15 goals per game is what the Flyers are giving up right now. So that is a huge, huge improvement. And it's goaltending and it's team defense. I will tell you that the Flyers give up the least, they're the number 1 team in the NHL in expected goals against at even strength. Number 1. That's how good the defensive environment has been. And that's how the players have bought into the system. Flyers are giving up top 5 least amount of off the rush attacks in the NHL. You can see it. You can see how they're angling plays in the neutral zone, killing plays at their own blue line. Flyers doing a great job preventing entries into the zone. Matter of fact, only 1 team in the league have allowed less carry-in entries than the Flyers, and that's Florida. So this is all good. That's great for a D-zone environment. Now, we're going to talk about the other end of the ice in just a minute, but really good. So, okay, that was the first what if. What if the Flyers goaltending became a strength? It has, at least so far. Next one was, what if defensemen defended better and provided a better structure? Well, that goes into giving up less goals, and that has absolutely been the case. From the top pairing of Sanheim and York, who have defended very well, really defended well. Drysdale above my expectations, and Nick Seeler, and now with Andre, but at points different partners. Juleson, I think Juleson, for what my expectation was, for a third pairing right side D, has been very good. He's met beyond the expectation. I didn't know much about him, but if we're not talking about Noah Juleson, he's probably doing his job. He hasn't really done anything egregious. I think he's been more than capable. Now, what about Risto? When Risto comes back? Well, that's something that you guys asked me to inquire about, and I did inquire about it. Risto is on schedule. He's probably 3 or 4 weeks away if, there's no setbacks. Originally, the Flyers had said early December. So it's probably early to mid-December when he can possibly be available to come back. What do the Flyers do? Juleson's played well. I've said he's kind of like a coach surrogate because he played for Rick Tocchet. Risto, you wait for him to be absolutely ready to go. And if he is, you put him back in there because that's his spot. And ultimately, he's got a higher ceiling than Juleson. So look for 3 to 4 weeks from now. That puts us about the 10th to 20th of December for Risto to return. So you guys asked for that information. What did I do? I went out and delivered. Thank you. My third what if was, what if the power play were to become league average? Now, I will tell you, I don't lie to you guys. I thought that was a huge stretch. But I said, what if? Well, it's slightly above league average right now at 20.4%. It's 14th in the NHL. And it's not only that it's 14th in the league. Like, I look at that game at Wells Fargo Center, Xfinity Mobile Arena the other night. On Wednesday, Flyers needed a goal. Edmonton was up 1-0, controlled a lot of the play in the second period. Flyers got a power play at like this 16-minute mark of the period, 16 minutes in, and they score a goal with 15 and change when Michkov gets the goal. So not only is it a power play goal, it's a big goal to tie a very tight, tension-filled hockey game. Power play, slightly better than league average. Pinch me. Next one was, what if Tippett and Forster both become 30-plus goal scorers? Now, this one, Owen Tippett got off to a great start to the season. Potted 5 goals pretty early, but it's been a bit of a drought for him lately. Now, obviously, he had the offside that called back the goal with 23.6 seconds in the last game, but he's peppering a lot of shots to the net. He's creating some offense, but he's just not scoring right now. He hasn't scored a goal since the Flyers beat Seattle back on the 20th of October. Now, in his first 6 games of the season, he had 5 goals in his first 6 games. Off to a great start. But since then, it's been tough sledding for Owen Tippett. Since that game, since 6 games into the season, 10 games, he has no goals, 1 assist. So this is what Bill and I talked about. Bill mentioned it quite a bit. When he's scoring goals, it's great, but you got to limit those droughts when you're not scoring and how long they are. We're now at 10 games for Owen Tippett. You got to grind. You got to go to the net. As far as Forster goes, obviously he was out of the lineup for a bit, but he's been very good to start this season. So that's another what if. The next one and the last one was, what if Zegras recovers his back-to-back 60-plus point totals and Michkov builds off of last season's totals? Now, we know for a fact that Zegras is off to a very good start. He has been delivered more than I would have expected so quickly. He's leading the team in points with 16 in 16 games. He's got 4 goals, 12 assists. He makes plays at big times in pressure situations. He's made guys, this is a big key for me with Zegras. He has made players that play with him better. by his ability to distribute the puck. He has been more than a willing defender. He had a couple good plays in the Edmonton game with back pressure in the zone too. And he's been very good. Now he's on a point per game pace right now. We'll see if he can sustain that. But he's off to a great start. As far as Mishkov goes, we know it was a rocky start. We don't need to go into all the, side stuff. We're kind of past that at this point. But Mishkov now has 3 goals in his last 3 games. And he looks like the game is getting dialed in now. Mishkov in 16 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. Even with what we would categorize as a really slow start for Mishkov, he still has 9 points. And again, with Mishkov too, I've seen a player willing to capitulate and do things in the defensive zone. He made 2 good plays in the Edmonton game with back pressure, getting back hard on the guy, playing through his hands and the stick. So those are all good things. All these what ifs, and you don't expect when you write 5 of them, as consequential as these 5 were, goaltending being a strength, defensemen in the environment being better, power play going from league worst to average, and it's actually exceeded that. Tippett and Forster, the Tippett part of that is a huge question mark right now. Forster not. And Zegras getting back to form, and Mishkov building off last season totals. He still has a lot of runway to do that, and I think that now he's on that path. It's rare that you can answer that many with the affirmative. So that is a great thing concerning the what-ifs that I had back in September. Somebody also had asked, and I brought it up on the podcast, if the Flyers have retired or abandoned the black jerseys. Now, I am digging into this. I'm not sure yet. We haven't seen them as of yet, which we probably would have. I don't know that they're officially retired, but I am trying to get some clarification on that. Now, one of the things, I was going back and forth with our good buddy Kevin Woodley from In Goal Magazine. And Kevin, we have him on from time to time to talk about goaltending and really try and not just say, this is the goalie's numbers, no, but really look at his environment, what he's been good at, what the team is giving up, and where he's excelling or maybe where he's struggling. So in going back and forth with Kevin, the Flyers, like I mentioned before, are first in the league with fewest expected goals off high danger rush chances against. That's a huge thing. They just don't give up a ton because they're being really good in the neutral zone. And they're first when it's odd man rushes. Like we saw that 2-on-1 in the first period against Edmonton. And Vladar came over, made a great save. You got to get saves in those situations. And you also have to have defensemen that know how to play an odd man rush properly. Sanheim and York, very good at it because they're very balanced skaters. They don't overcommit and get themselves twisted too often. This comes off a game where York kind of got twisted with a bad pass in overtime, but Flyers have been very good in those situations. He said, interestingly, though, they were 31st in D-zone chances, but the rush matters more, so it comes out to 8th overall. Now, offensively, the Flyers have got to be better. They're 28th in the NHL in high-danger expected goals and 30th off the rush. They got to be better. They've been good down low in the offensive zone. Odd man rush is 26th, but net front, 14th in the league, and dots down in the O-zone, they are 4th in the league. But the Flyers have to find a way to generate more offense. Now, we've had the discussion here on a few occasions about the Flyers and generating shots, about the NHL and the value of a shot. All shots are not created equal. So the Flyers right now, as we sit with them, 16 games into the season, are generating the least amount of shots in the NHL. The least. So they're 32nd, 24.6 shots per game. San Jose is 31st, same percentage at 24.6. Now, it's weird because Montreal is 30th, but they're leading their division with a record of 10-4-2. Chicago's off to a decent start. They're 29th. Seattle's off to a decent start, 7-4-5, 28th. Dallas is off to a bonker start, 27th at 26.2. But sometimes it feels like the Flyers aren't generating enough. Now, this is an adjustment we also need to make as observers, watchers, fans, that it's not going to be about the volume. And when you're in the building, everybody, shoot! Well, it's about that quality. But I still think the Flyers do need to generate more offense. Now, are they over defending to prevent themselves from getting out and getting offense? Or are they not hemming teams in, whatever it is? Now, Rick Tockett's teams with Vancouver back in 23-24, they had a great year that year, mind you. So this number is going to be a little bit, skewed. His teams back in 23-24 with Vancouver, they were a really good team. And when it came to shots per games played that season, Vancouver was a team that was 26th in the NHL. They averaged 28.4 shots per game. Now, how many goals did they score, though? It's about goals for, games played. When you look at that, 26th in shots, but 6th in the NHL in goals for at 3.4. Now, last year wasn't as kind for Vancouver in the 24-25 season. Last year, when it came to goals for the Vancouver Canucks, and again, their record last year was not nearly what it was the year prior. Things really went sideways. They were 23rd in goals for, 2.84, and they averaged 25.5 shots per game. And that ranked them 31st in the league. So here's kind of this part of the equation. In the offensive zone, you have to incur some risk that what you're doing is by stressing the opponent and being aggressive is that sometimes it won't work and they'll end up going the other way as an odd man rush. Now, the Flyers are giving up the least amount of odd man rushes, but they also give up the fewest goals on odd man rushes. But there has to be a balance there where maybe you're just going to have to give up more odd man rushes and need your goalies and your defenders that are back and handling those to bail you out a little bit more so you can generate more offense. To generate offense, you incur risk. And that risk comes at the puck going the other way, particularly in odd man rush situations. Now, Rick Tocchet runs a 1-2-2 forecheck, which is not as aggressive as what John Tortorella ran with a 2-1-2. F1, and then the two guys kind of reading the play and cutting off, zone exit strategies. I'm not going to break that whole thing down because it's a little complicated to just explain. We got to show it if we're going to do it, which we'll do at some point. But they do need to generate more offense, more high danger chances. There's been too many games that are 2-1. I've always said the NHL is a race to 3 league, race to 4. You get there first, you're going to win the game. Now they've scored over that on occasion, but that's basically the number you want to get to. All right, let's get to a couple of the comments from yesterday's show on YouTube. And one of the things I brought up was Lima Bean had messaged in and said, hey, I can read the comments on the YouTube feed. You don't need to read them during the show. And as I explained on yesterday's episode, I do the show by myself in my home studio. I don't have that co-host to have banter and conversation. And I want to have conversations. My way to do it is to read comments, emails, DMs, whatever it might be. And that's my way of you and I, if you send one in, going back and forth and having a conversation. And it was also really important to me that, particularly when we went on YouTube also, to make this more of a community. Now, I listen to a lot of the other Flyers podcasts, and they don't interact with the audience as much because they have co-hosts. So they're kind of doing their own thing. I thought the evolution with this podcast would be to make the community have a voice. And that's you guys. And the way to do it was that way. So it was really important. I will tell you that when they came to me and said, we want to put it on YouTube, and we were audio only up until before last season, I was not for it. I did not want to do video. First of all, I'm not much to look at, but I thought it was just a audio, kind of content thing. But the YouTube, it's gone great. And it's opened up some doors for us too, where we can do video. And, when I have a player on or something like that, to be able to see them. I know people always want to peek behind the curtain. When I tape a player interview after a game, when they walk in their equipment, and when we have a goalie on and he shows his mask, or when we're at the practice facility, to see the guys talking and interacting is cool too. So Lima Bean seemed like he was probably in the minority. Like, I appreciate his note, and I'm always looking for the podcast to improve and get better and improve the content. And most people kind of agreed with my instinctual reaction to read comments and emails and stuff like that. AD Jake said, I like the comments as long as they're filtered like you do. I didn't filter yours, though. And I do. I filter them. I'll look at some of them and I'll go, that one's not worth reading today. Or, and that's not based on the person, just kind of where I'm going with that particular episode. NC Bear said, I want to see the team press up a little more. I feel like we give up too quickly when the puck isn't in our direct control and we're in their end. Now, I agree with that. I'd like to see a little bit more aggressiveness too. Now, they do have D's pinching down the wall, forward coming back and all that. But again, to create more offense, you got to incur a little bit more risk and be a little bit more aggressive. He said, I'd also like to see our team pass it back if the push into the zone isn't looking like it will be successful. Is that on the power play or 3-on-3? I wouldn't be passing it back on 5-on-5. I don't like moving backwards. I think you're just incurring a risk you don't need to incur. He said, third, I'd like to see us skate it into the zone just a tad bit more. We dump it in when we aren't being pressed up on. Well, that depends. Now, dump-ins, guys at the end of the shift, in particular in the second period, if you're outnumbered, if it's 2 Flyers coming up the ice and they have 4 guys back, you're probably not going to be able to skate it in. They're going to be angling you. You dump it and chase. So that's a situational thing. Chris Brown said, I'm a fan of the comments being highlighted. Dan, I like the community input. If you're doing a great job, Jason, keep it up. Crazy Football Boys 5076 says, UK fan here. He said, Flyers look like a playoffs team to me this year, and you could argue that's ahead of schedule. Love the new coach and the attitude of the group. Let's go Flyers. See, we do have guys all over the world, or listeners all over the world, people all over the country. And it's bananas to me, but the reach is incredible. Steve, Hurley Design said, hey, Jason, is it just me? Or does it feel like the Flyers have been having lots of difficulties in face-offs lately? It's not just you. Through 2 periods against Edmonton won over 72% of the draws. That's a huge number. He said, watching the last game, there were so many times I felt if they only just won the face-off, there could be much more pressure. Is it as simple as just practice makes perfect with this kind of thing? Learning to be a good face-off guy is something you can learn. You can develop. It's not one of like a God gift, like, oh, he was just born to be a great face-off guy. It is something. You got to have a plan. You got to do some pre-scout on the guys you're going against, what they like to do. You got to have a couple different ways you can win a draw. Now, it's not always on the center. A face-off can be executed perfectly from the center and you still lose the draw because your wingers don't get in. There's 2 teams battling. Logged says, love the community input. You gave me a voice in this community, Jason. Oh, that's awesome. John Causey said, I love the comments and more video explanations. Love the breakdowns. For someone that did not grow up playing the game, it helps. Plus, you see things that a, quote, newbie doesn't see or know of yet. Thanks for all you do. I actually believe the Flyers are still in the crawling phase of the offense talk once. Agreed. Thoughts? Yep, totally agree. We talked about it. I think they got to generate more. I think when Talk and the new coaching staff came in, systematically, you start from your crease out. That's the way you start in your end, preventing goals, and you filter things forward. You go from that D zone into the neutral zone, which I seem to have really locked down a little bit more now, and then into the offensive zone. Rick says, absolutely love that you read our comments. A lot of us live in other states and countries, and it keeps the Flyers community spirit alive and a bit tighter, in my opinion. Best pod on Flyers hockey on the net. Keep up the great work. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, Rick. BP Cards just gave a thumbs up emoji and comments. RM Polina said, you do a great job picking relevant comments to respond to. I enjoy when you respond to them. My vote is to keep doing what you're doing. So, yeah, Lyman Bean even checked in. He said, I listened to today's pod and appreciate you addressing it. I don't even like using the word criticism because I appreciate what you do, but it was just his thought. And that's okay. And look, no offense taken, man. I really appreciate it. So, looks like we're going to continue reading the comments. Sorry, Lima Beam, but I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. Always appreciate the criticism, comments, emails, exchanges. And this is a community where we can discuss all this stuff and break it down. And look, sometimes I don't have all the answers, or somebody asks me something, I have opinion. It may not be 100% right, but based on what I value and all of those things when it comes to players or coaches or whatever. I just give you my opinion on how I see it. And again, sometimes maybe I'm wrong, and that's okay too. All right. Flyers, Blues tonight. Flyers, Stars tomorrow. Monday, it's Bill Meltzer on the pod for his weekly edition. And we'll have those games to discuss, the week that was, the week that's coming, and much more. Flyers will be back home Thursday for Hockey Fights Cancer, which I'm really looking forward to. So everybody have a safe, great weekend. Enjoy the hockey tonight and tomorrow. And we'll talk to you Monday with Bill Meltzer on a brand new Flyers Daily.